Hello, and welcome. My name is Greatman Ayilara, and I want to welcome you to a very special episode of Intentional Parenting. Today, we will be talking about why you must not lose your children or your words to the West. It's pretty much of a note of warning for every single parent out there. Either you are living abroad or you are at home, either you give them access to the internet or you are just preparing them for the life ahead of them. This is a very special warning to you, and that is you must not, under any circumstances, lose your children to the West. And I really don't know where you are living right now. Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Zimbabwe, London, whatever it is in part of America, North, South, Central. Don't lose your child to the West, even if you live amongst them. And that is talking about those who are of African descent. Those who have African descent. You know how we do it on this platform? Go ahead and share with as many people as possible as we take a musical break. And I will be right back to give you lowdown on the reason why I'm giving you this particular strange one. I will be right back. All right, welcome every single person joining me all across the globe. My name is Greatman Ayilara, and today I am giving you a thorough warning, and I'm saying to you today that don't lose your child or your children to the West. This is intentional parenting, where we talk about critical issue on how to raise leaders of tomorrow that are going to be filling up the vacuum of leadership in all continent of Africa. So, in the first instance, why should you even try to train up an African child in a Western way? I'm asking a question. If not for inferiority complex and lack of confidence in your own culture and your own tradition. And this is one thing I always tell people that African culture and tradition are not all bad. Not everything we practice here in Africa are all bad. Now let's take away the circumcision. What was the reason for circumcision there? The female circumcision. The female circumcision was because parents are scared of maybe their children would be promiscuous and they want their children to marry as a virgin. If they don't marry as a virgin, I'm explaining from my own tribe and my own perspective. If children don't marry as a virgin, female child don't marry as a virgin, it is a disgrace for the family, especially the father of the home. And sometimes we have seen father committing suicide or family leaving or being excommunicated from a society or their village just because their child was not able to marry as a virgin. So parents gathered together and they said, okay, what can we do to curtail these immoral acts, so to say, having sex before marriage. So they said, okay, if we get rid of the clitoris of a female child, uh, our ability to be sexually aroused or sexually stimulated will be limited. So they started that culture of female circumcision. There are so many disadvantages in that particular aspect because some children bleed to death, some children never get themselves, some even if they survive, when they get into marriage, they hardly reach orgasm and they hardly have what do we call it, sexual satisfaction. And the white man came and he said it is female genital mutilation. That is a very bad culture, whatever tradition that is being practiced. It is life threatening. And then several other cultures that we practice here, maybe like this tribal mark and all of those things that totally disfigure our children these days. And that's because the civilization is bringing another definition of how you must appear or look like in a society. Not because then it was not in vogue. As a matter of fact, then in my own tribe, Yoruba tribe, it is only the rich people that have the enough money to have tribal mark, and it is a form of fashion. So the more technical and more skillful your tribal mark is, the more beautiful you are considered to be. And there are a lot of things like piercing of hair and all of those things that was later um, eradicated because it is becoming not standard enough for the society we find ourselves. But there are so many culture and tradition in Africa that is like an identity and a form of preservation for who we are as African children. And the necessity to migrate or to move around the world became so cogent, and people begin to live outside their area of convenience. And people get to migrate to the West, and the Western people get to come here also. And one thing I found so appalling is that we have never been able to successfully tell the Western folks how to live their life, but they have been successful in telling us how we should live our life, how we should live our life. And I don't think that is right. Not everything African is bad. Not every black is dark. So there are still some culture, there are some heritages, there are some identification practices that we could retain and make our children propagate into the future and also hand over to their own generation unborn. But we find ourselves in the day and the age whereby we have lost these children to the culture of the West. A black child behaving like a white child. You know one thing, the white men don't have culture, they don't have tradition. They go with trends and with vogue. And this thing called civilization to them is another way of discovering how best to be more evil in a legal way. You get the point? But Africa have decency. In Africa, we have things that curtail us. In Africa, we have people that serves as a mentor and a monitor or guidance to us. We run family system in such a closed circuit format, and then each one is responsible for each one. And if you keep raising your children to live or to grow up like a white person or people of the West, you are gradually losing out on what really made them to be identified as an African indeed. In Africa, we greet our parents and then we don't stand upright greeting our parents. But in the West, they think it is okay to just come into the room and say, Mommy, hi, Daddy, hi. That is not our identity. It is not being a cake or living in a cave. It is preserving what was handed over to us by our forefathers. And you will see that there are so many advantages in some of these culture and tradition that was handed over to us by our fathers. Because in the society, we have hierarchy. And because there is hierarchy in the society, we are able to maintain law and order without necessary enforcement. Now, a child just know who to respect, and how to talk in the society. They are always living with the consciousness that my family name is at stake. In our days where we grew up, normally when I was growing up, I grew up waking up in the morning, going to my father's and my mother's room to go prostrate for them. And then my older sister will also kneel down to greet them. And even though civilization came and we have traveled for a while, even if my younger one sees me on the street today, even though they are tall and they are huge and all that, we maintain that tradition and the culture in the family. You have to just prostrate. It doesn't matter if I'm older than you by 1 year or maybe 2 days. You have to still prostrate or kneel down. It has nothing to do with slavery or being a kid. It is a show. It is an outward explanation that I revere you. So no matter how old you are, no matter how successful you are, in my family, when you go home, you are ready. You must be ready to prostrate for the mother of the house. Even my elder sister, whenever I see her, I still do that. And I really want my children to really have a feel of what it means to be African. And do you know one thing I want you to understand is that the white folks, the folks from the West, they really cherish these things, even though they pretend that it is not civilized enough. What do you call tourism? Tourism is the preservation of people's heritage, culture, and way of life. And have you ever been in a setting, maybe in the West or whatever it is, and you put on your African attire, and people, white folks, really want to take pictures with you? Now, you become important according to the proportion of value you give to the culture and your heritage at home. And if we keep allowing our children to go by the way of the West, to live their life, whatever it is, they want, the internet it is, and the jet age it is, and everything is just fly, fly, fly by, realize that these children are dying way faster than we ourselves now, because they want to get everything so quickly, so fast. The culture of patience, the culture of perseverance, the culture of marking your time, the culture of waiting for a certain moment of life to get things done is gradually diminishing or even disappearing in African homes. So children feel like, okay, no problem, let's just put it in Indomie levels. When you put the noodles in to get it out, fast food like that they are living right now. But I'm saying to you now, what kind of children do you want to raise? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? You would say that these things are outdated. Somebody told me that, okay, because I'm saying you, I'm calling you uncle, or I'm calling you brother so, or elder so, does not mean I respect you. It's a people that gives that kind of argument, you must know that they have lost the value of respect from whom they have no cultural value. Why? Because they are trying to explain out their disrespect. If it takes you nothing to respect me in your art, it takes you nothing to also express that respect. So a lot of time we find ourselves in situation where we have to now begin to explain to the children that no, you don't talk to your elders like that. You don't do this. Now, it is not when they begin to disgrace the family name or legacy that we can correct them. It's just a case of somebody coming to look for you at home. And that's when you begin to tell your child that can't you greet, can't you greet? You are disgracing yourself. Because a child that you have taught how to greet, a child that you have taught how to respect elders, will not need correction or pruning or guiding or just pampering when the time of execution of what you have given him or her as a training comes. So your children talk to people anyhow. That's why they get online and they put their mouth in what does not concern them. They are not able to even keep their own business to be their own business. They propose in everybody's business. They disgrace your name everywhere because of the culture of the West. that you are permitted in your home. When I was growing up, there is a TV time, there is a dinner time, there is a reading time, everything have time. So when I left home, it was not hard for me to now begin to man myself and to take charge of my own freedom. But in this day and age, we leave things to levity and we say children can find out things for themselves. Some of them even go to Google to go find out how to be African child. I said there is nothing wrong in raising your children abroad, but with the mentality of an African. I'm so sure there are some things that were used to train you up. There are some legacy, there are some things that you learned from home. Why are you so shy to pass it across to your child? And it happens to only Africans. We are so timid and so ashamed of our culture. Wherever you see a Pakistani child, wherever you see an Indian child, you see them, they want to greet their elder. They are always putting their hand on the feet of the elder and all of those things. They don't care what you say about them. And that's why their movies are popular. That's why you want to buy their dress. That's why you are even importing their hair to put on your head. It starts with losing your own culture and value. Do you know how much it's going to take people like Beyonce and the rest of them to plait hair if you are introducing them to the market of African hairstyle? But you are so ashamed of yourself. Any little thing you put relaxer on and all those things. I'm not saying don't do fashion, but I'm saying that you are an African child. Stop trying to compete with a white child because, in the first instance, that white child cannot survive in the terrain of Africa if you are proud of your culture and heritage. If you are proud of your culture and heritage. Now, if you are a Christian listening to me right now, you will see often and often in the Bible, there's a part of this book of Genesis that it was stated that God came down from heaven in the bid to want to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And there was this particular conversation that ensued between God and this man called Abraham. Now, God was going to just move on and do what he came to do. But as he was leaving, he said, shall I do these things without telling my friend Abraham? And I want us to really consider what made Abraham become God's friend. And why is God not able to keep his mouth shut from revealing his plan to Abraham? Why? Now, the part of the scripture that I'm looking for says that, I think in the book of Genesis, chapter 15, verse 13 says that, then the Lord said to him, know for certain that our descendants will be strangers and all that, and blah, blah, blah. No, 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 that's not where I'm looking for. That's not what I'm looking for. There's a part of the scripture that says that God was going to go destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And he said, shall I do this thing without telling my friend Abraham, knowing fully well that he will train up his children to follow after my tradition? Yeah, Genesis chapter 18, verse 17. I want the parents listening to me right now to learn from this. So then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Abraham, why is he not hiding it? He said, Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on the earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Now, that was the reason why God could not keep quiet from revealing to Abraham what he's about to do in Sodom and Gomorrah. Why? Because Abraham has been tested to be a person who will keep the tradition going, who will keep the culture going. Abraham was a very traditional man, a very cultural man. How often do you take your children to the village? What do they know about their state of origin? Some of you, your pastor have told you that your village people are against you, so you don't even want your children to have any contact with your own parent. You don't even trust your parent enough. They don't have close proximity or any form of privilege to learn from the wisdom of the elders, from your own parents, which are their own grandparents. Now, God is saying that, come, Abraham is going to bring a great nation because he's going to teach his children to follow after his footsteps. Can God give the same testimony about you, that you are teaching your children to follow their culture and their tradition? How much of the tradition that you have learned from your own parents are you putting inside your inside your children? You say in this part of Europe, they don't spank children or they don't nag on children. Transport the child to Africa. Because if Europeans mess up the life of this child, ìwọ ló ní jèrè wọn o. Ọlọ́run ò ní jẹ́ kó ṣaláì máa jèrè ọmọ lórúkọ Jésù. You know what the European folks do? I have a lot of friends outside the country. A lot of parents that I've made during this intentional parenting, and sometimes when they call me with so much broken heart and also, you know what they do? They put down those laws, and any little mistake you make with your children, what they perceive as mistake. Because when I was growing up, at Tomorogo, at Ibako, at Ichie, everything they use it to train us up. But here in Europe, you cannot even shout to your child and say, "Will you get?" The child will report you to the police, and they are going to take the child away from you. And you know why they are taking the children away from you? To render them useless. A lot of African children in those foster homes abroad, they are drug addicts, they are prostituting away, they have no headway or leadway in life. They transfer them from one foster home to the other. It is an intentional and governmental program to make sure that African children don't excel in life. So they put up this child care system and all that, child protection law and all that, not because they really have the interest of these children at heart, but because they want to make sure children don't have what it takes to stand and the identity it takes to preserve their own self. Now they know and understand that when generations could learn from the past and the previous, there is possibility that they will know their root, they will learn their history, they will revive their culture, and they will practice their tradition, which will be a preservation method and also an identification method for them. So what they constantly do is to bring up programs to detach the African child from their parent, so that these children will think they are getting into freedom. Or in other words, they are putting them in exposure to things that are bad. Most of them are drug addicts. You see African children all across Europe, all across America, all across Canada, everywhere in the world. Those that especially came out of childcare system or foster homes, they don't turn out well. And that is what the white men want to do. So there is nothing wrong in sending your child to Africa. You have the money now. And this is one thing about intentional parenting. I am not talking about intentional parenting so that you can just learn or you can just hear and just move on. I'm saying drop everything and focus on these children. These are your pension plan. These are your future. If you do it well or not, God is going to ask you. So something happened between God and one man called Eli in the book of 1 Samuel. It was not Eli that offended God. It was his children. Phineas and Hophni. They kept perverting justice, doing a lot of things, messing women up and all that. And then God said, "It's your children and all of those things." And Eli said, "JB, they are your children also." And God said, "Okay, because of that, I'm not even going to stop the punishment on you. The whole of your generation, that they will not grow before they die. And for your own, you that are careless, you this Eli, I do not care if you are the minister or the priest of the whole of the nation. Because you are careless to cater for this thing I put under your custody. Don't you know they are my heritage? You are just a custodian. You are dying today, and the man died. If the story was true or not, I just wanted to borrow a leaf from it. So it is not because you did not provide or you did not give them food that you might have God to face. It is because you are not training them up intentionally. And if you really know that God is putting this thing under your care, know that you have Him to answer to at the end of the day. So I don't know why people go to have children without having the proper plan. I put up a post about a boy child recently, and someone was saying that it is very wrong for me to advise men to be stay-home dad. I'm saying, see, finance is about who is capable of doing it. Somebody must be part of the children's life. It is advisable if the two can be part of the children's life. But if my wife has PhD, have this, and all of those, blah, 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 and she's earning more than me, and I'm earning significantly lower than she does, I'm not going to leave my children at the mercy of the house help. I'm sorry. Nanny cannot cater for my children for me. And my mother cannot train up my children the way I want them to be trained up. That is indirect parenting. We'll be dealing with that. We'll have conversation. I might have to resign and stay home to train up these children. There are several jobs I can do from home behind my computer that will give me access to be able to monitor how these children are doing. Who told you that it's the job of a woman to train up the children at home? So it is about compromise. Who is available to do what needs to be done at the time it ought to be done is what marriage is all about. And if it comes to our children, one of us need to really say, okay, I'm going to be the one who's the, and if the whole lot is coming on me as the man, I will be glad to be a stay-home dad. So what are you talking about? Two of us cannot be totally absent in the daily growth of our children's life. And in that wise, we train them, we teach them. This is how to greet an elderly person. This is how to be orokale. This is how to talk in public. You don't carve your word like that. This is how to behave. This is the reaction. You see, in Africa, we do a lot of symbolic languages. We do a lot of sign languages. And these are things that give us leverage over these white folks. They want to say everything. But we know. Growing up in my father's house, I know when he's shaking his leg too much or he's doing like this. I know what it means. I know what it means. And you know, sign language is peculiar to each family according to what they have defined it to be. So you could be in the midst of crowd because you are training your children up in an African way. They get what you say without saying a word. So the people around are saying, when did you tell this child to do this thing? It's a family culture, it's a family value. We were given so much gift in Africa to be able to communicate without saying a word. We have our own value, we have our own system, we have our own civilization. We have a way of training these children up. We have the hierarchy of the elders, of the middle class, of the low class. We know how to be fair in giving justice to all. Your children grew up in the city and they have been in the city all the while. They don't even know how to speak their language. We'll be dealing with that someday, so. They don't know how to speak their language. When you put on their local attire on them, they begin to feel strange. They are not proud of whatever it is that has to do with Africa. They are not proud of it. So your child begins to call you your name. An African child calls the mother that Janet and say that's civilizational. It doesn't matter if he calls him my name or if you try that with an African father, here you are dead. You are dead. You are gone forever. Forever. So you have African child putting on African dress and they look like a masquerade because they don't even know how to carry themselves in their own attire. Everybody want to wear crazy jeans. Everybody want to wear tight leggings and all that. Everybody want to put on suit. Nobody is patronizing the African print. Do you know that the largest market of Kampala and Ankara is in China? Chinese people don't even wear those things, but they manufacture it than any country, any company around the world because they saw the beauty in it. They saw the beauty in it. But it's only you Africans that will be so that will find your own or your own culture, your own heritage appalling. But then you would save a lot of money to go and watch, to go and see the tomb of Jesus in Jerusalem. When you cannot save money to go and see Oparamiyan in Ile-Ife, who are you deceiving? See, these children need to know where they came from, how people like them behave. Is it when they understand their root, when they have an identification, they are able to preserve their own conscience when they want to do things. They are able to preserve their name. They are able to preserve their race. They are able to do things that other people cannot do. See, technology and science is not a new thing to African child. If you really teach them that these people took it from us. So let's go back to basics and begin to train them up with so much self-confidence and self-esteem. Make them realize that, come, you are not a second-hand citizen in the world. As a matter of fact, civilization started here in Africa. And because we have our way of life, these people came, invaded us, and they tried to distort us. One man said, if you want to enslave a country, you just need to change their language. The moment they can speak their language, you can really penetrate into them easily. Can your child speak your language? Can your child speak your language? Ordinary Ekaro or Tutuoma, they don't even know what you're saying. And so what if they are outcast? And so what if they are outcast? I bet it with you, if you have a child with a Chinese woman or a Chinese man, there is tendency that that child will speak more Chinese than your own African language. They don't play with their own culture. They don't play with their language. And you marvel why they are becoming the world power today. The power of number. Not just power of number, the power of multiplying the culture, the heritage. But it's only an African child that will be fighting for naturalization in another man's country. And if they call you shit or country, you say it's okay, just give me visa. It's okay, just give me passport. It's okay, just give me citizenship. I know a lot of you that go abroad to go and claim that you you are homosexual. When you are not homosexual, you are homosexual at home, you just want to get paper at all costs. This is the things you put your children through. You teach them how to lie, how to disclaim their own heritage. How to disclaim their own heritage. So Pius, the man that died in plane crash, was saying that most times, immigration officers will write to him to get his opinion on things, and people they will lie a lot and say, okay, all the people in their village is the headquarters of witches and wizards. How do you want people that you are betraying your own tribe to? How do you want them to respect you? How do you want them to respect you? So you just want your child to be Western. The most marveling thing is that even in Africa itself, Africa like South Africa, Africa like Mauritius, Africa like Madagascar, Africa like maybe Tunisia or so, they so much trade themselves away to the white folks in their own nation that their own black children in the black continent that belongs to them don't even know their culture at all, don't even know how to speak their language. They don't even know how to speak their language at all. This is another thing for them to be living in diaspora. Now, these children are living on the soil of their fathers. They don't know anything about their culture. They don't know anything about their language. They have no identification in their own country, and they are not preserved for the future. So when you tell them about the slavery time and you try to tell them that, okay, before the slavery came, we have civilization and all of those things, they don't even understand what you're saying. So I will encourage you, do this particular assignment. Go to your village today, meet the elderly ones in your village. This is what you're going to do. You're going to tell them to show you their tattoos. To show you their tattoos. When tattoo is tattoo, when Africans were drawing tattoos, we were drawing tattoos as a form of education and preservation of our lineages. We drew tattoo as a form of preservation and identification of our lineages. You see those tribal marks, it is for identification, and it just when I see your tribal mark, I know where you are from. When I know where you are from, there are some other connotations that will make me know the compound you are coming from. It's an identification. You see those tattoos that you see on your mother's hand, those things that looks like a cryptic message, those are your original languages. Those are the original language that we speak. In my own tribe, Yoruba tribe, those are the original languages. Our name is not Yoruba. The Hausa, the Arewa people call Hausa, gave us that name, Yariba. They gave us the name Yariba in conjunction with Lord Lugadon, whatever it is. And I don't like that man for anything. I don't know where his soul is. Maybe he's resting somewhere. They gave us that name Yariba. Our language is not Yoruba. Our language is Anago. And Anago is not written by reading ABDAFGB. That's not our alphabet. Our alphabet are cryptic. They are very much in close proximity with the alphabet of the Egyptians. Go home and see your grandmother's tattoo. It means something. But we have lost out on these things. Do we want to lose out on the little remnant of culture that is remaining? So your children will only know about the Lord Lugard, the Martin Luther King, the John F. Kennedy. They don't know about Fumilayo Rasokuchi. They don't know about Shaka Zulu of South Africa. They don't know about Kwame Nkrumah. They don't know about people that have lived. They don't know about Awolowo. You ask some children, you just ask them, even the most celebrated one, they don't even know about Fela because they belong to Jesus now. Because they belong to Jesus, they don't want to hear anything about Fela. There was a particular school that contracted me in one of their extra curriculum a few months ago. The school is located in Bagada. What's the name of this school? Applesbury School. And they want me to drop a team. The team is about our cultural song, our indigenous song, and all that. So I was able to bring it up as a form of presentation. I taught the teachers what to teach the children. Do you know that when we deploy this program, even children in the crèche can actually identify our local instruments. They know the story of people like Fela, King Sunny Ade, Ayinla Omowura, Ekuaka, and all this Ishola, and all those things. Little children, little children. Who is there? Little children. So that's it. Excuse me, please. I was hearing something in my house. I was hearing something. So little children could understand all that. So that's it. That's it. And their parents were so happy. The parents were so happy and so glad. So happy and so glad. So we need to live up to responsibility. Live up to that responsibility and pass this culture ahead to our children. Let them know where they came from. Let them know where they came from. And let them know where they are going to. And let them know what Eledumare is expecting from them. It's not about I go to church, I go to mosque alone. If Jewish people are not preserving their own culture and tradition, you will not be reading about them today. You will not be reading about them today. It is because they preserve theirs that you are able to learn about them. So we need to live up to that responsibility. I'll be closing here. I'll be closing here. I'll be closing here for today. And if possible, we'll be talking some other time regarding the language aspect of it. I got distracted a little around there. So um, my name is Greatman Ayilara, and I'm so happy that you could join me today. Go and do that assignment that I gave to you and replicate it on your children, especially those who live in the West. You need to bring these children back to basics. You need to make them understand that they came from somewhere and there's nothing wrong about African tradition. Grace be with you and see you some other time on a fresh episode of Intentional Parenting. Parenting. If you are just joining us, you can watch this particular broadcast from the beginning. And every Wednesday, we come together here to do this for the sake of our children. And thank you very much. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go to YouTube, type Greatman Ayilara, press your subscribe button, and also click on the alarm button so that you know when we are live. And if you're watching me on Facebook, go to at the Greatman Ayilara and just quickly follow me and see how much we do things for the sake of the future generation. Grace be with you now and see you some other time. Your children are my priority. Bye for now.